The FIA is launching a review into the punishment for Lewis Hamilton after he was given a stern talking to and a hefty fine for crossing an active racetrack after the British driver crashed out of the Qatar Grand Prix. Hamilton was caught tangling too close with his teammate George Russell on the opening lap of the race a week ago, but perhaps bigger than the mistake of colliding with his co-worker was Hamilton's decision to wander across an active racetrack on his way back to the pits. The driver was handed a €50,000 fine, with €25,000 of it suspended until the end of the season, and was also handed an official reprimand by the race stewards. However, the sport's governing body, the FIA, is looking into the incident again and the punishment handed out to the driver because the 7-time world champion has such a presence and is a role model to so many. The FIA noted that the Mercedes driver was very apologetic when he met with the stewards after the incident. However, they fear that the actions of Hamilton will have left an impression on younger drivers with his unprofessional behaviour. It seems that Hamilton could be facing more sanctions then after this potentially dangerous blunder. A brief one, as Danny Ricardo has confirmed he'll be back racing this weekend at the United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas. A broken hand has left the Australian out of action since the Dutch Grand Prix, with Ricardo replaced at AlphaTauri by Liam Lawson, who has impressed during his time behind the wheel. But Qatar will be the last of the driving action in a Grand Prix that the reserve driver for AlphaTauri will see, with Ricardo telling The Athletic that he's back for the race in Austin, a personal favourite of his as he throws himself into the American cowboy lifestyle in Texas. Expect at least a Longhorns t-shirt and a cowboy hat coming to the grid this weekend from the Australian. Mike Crack believes that F1 drivers should be given more respect after the outburst from Lance Stroll last weekend in Qatar. Stroll apologised to the FIA for his rage-fueled tantrum after qualifying in Qatar that included the Canadian pushing his trainer and throwing his steering wheel after finishing the session in a lowly 16th position. Stroll then gave short, sharp answers to the media interviews before storming off away from the media pen. The FIA have issued the driver with an official warning for his actions, but his team principal believes a little more sympathy is needed for Stroll and his fellow drivers. "I think emotions are what we want from sportsmen," said Crack. "If they react, we judge them quickly. Is this right? Is this wrong? I think we need to be careful with that. We want to see it because then we have something to talk about. But when it goes one step too far, then people like to sit down on the sofa or in an air-conditioned room and say, this is too much, or you cannot do that. I think we need to have a little bit more respect for the drivers and high elite sportsmen, I would say. Sure, tensions can rise in the cockpit and after a frustrating race, or season in Stroll's case, but all we're looking for is a little more decorum. That's all we ask." And finally, Alexander Wurz wants to see changes made to help drivers deal with the hellishly hot conditions like we saw in Qatar at the last Grand Prix. The head of the Grand Prix Drivers Association has warned that something must be done to fix the issue of the extreme heat the drivers faced and conditions that forced Logan Sargent into a retirement, while plenty of others took themselves to the medical facility to deal with the immense dehydration suffered. Cooling seats in the cars and insulation around the hotter areas of the vehicle have been suggestions in the past, and Wurz wants to see something done to tackle the issue with more races on the schedule in hotter climates. The entire rule set has tests and limits for many parts of the car, said the former F1 driver. Given the driver is one of the performance parts of the equation, perhaps it is time to look at defining limits to the heat they are subjected to. A smart move for sure in terms of driver safety and preventing the near blacking out moments that many drivers faced in the latter part of the race in the last Grand Prix. Looking ahead to the next Grand Prix though, you can find all of the build-up and the latest news on GPFans.com and GPFans Global across social media, and hit subscribe down below to stick with us here at the YouTube channel.